Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Explicit Measures podcast with Tommy, Seth, and Mike. Ooh, what a contentious morning I've had with my computer. We've been in fights. So
Fights all morning.
Oh my gosh. It's some days you walk in and maybe I was just running it too hard this week. Maybe just need a little bit more of a break, a little longer rest. But man, I had like blue screens and things were not working, not happy.
We've talked about doing hard resets, right? I'm about at that point myself. I have a Windows on another hard drive that I'm going to wipe the C drive.
Yeah, I have two drives on my computer as well. One is for like storing, all the things. Everything else I stored though was in SharePoint or OneDrive. I try not to keep anything physical on my computer, or at least not the original copy. It's like a copy of whatever's in the cloud, which is, I guess, maybe a bit of a shift. But yeah, I think, Tommy, I'm with you. It's been about that time. It's probably time to just clean, reinstall everything. And then that way, all those other extra apps you thought you needed are not actually going to be there. You can come back and just kind of slowly clean them out and work from a fresh computer. Anyways, that being said, we have a short episode today. We have meetings and things later on. So we're going to kind of take a short episode here. So this will be an episode primarily focused on the news. We have some really big announcements. November has some major announcements coming. So I want to unpack some of those, as well as there was an additional blog post around some pricing changes. So we definitely want to talk about that as well. Get into the pricing changes. So we'll see what happens with where the conversation goes around that one. We're going to call it "The Price is Right." As I don't know, whatever that game show sound is. I can't remember. Something like that. Anyways, The Price is Right, Bob. All right, let's jump in. Let's do the November updates. Does that sound a good starting point?
Love it.
All right. November updates, Patrick LeBlanc is doing our updates for the summer now. But we've got a number of events coming up. So we have register for Las Vegas Fabric Con in 2025. Can you believe it, guys? 2025 is like right around the corner. It feels like this year's gone extremely fast.
They just keep accelerating the older you get.
Apparently, that's how it works. So Fabric Conference is coming up. Ignite is coming out next week. Next week, Microsoft Ignite is happening. And we have an announcement there too as well. Tommy, what's our announcement around Ignite?
Well, we're going to ride the wave of Ignite, and we have our first Chicago Power BI Microsoft Fabric user group of the year in person, downtown Chicago, happening on that Wednesday. All the information, if you just Google Chicago Power BI user group on Meetup, or however you're going to search on Meetup, find us. The event's there. There is limited capacity. We actually have a PM from Microsoft speaking. Again, we're riding that wave. Yep. And there's a lot of cool things happening with the user group. We're planning to do the on-person more often, the cadence on a regular basis, but we're kicking it off with a bang.
Awesome. So I'll put the Meetup link here in the chat, and just make sure everyone can get, if they'd like to join, you're more than welcome to join. But here's the link to the event, just in case you'd like to join us there. We will be there hanging out at the Chicago office. So I think it's actually not too far away from where Ignite is happening, a little bit north, I believe.
Yeah.
It's the Microsoft office. So
right north of Central Park, Millennium Park.
Okay, there you go.
That's where the bean and keep walking.
Hit the bean and keep going right there. Right after, just after the bean, take a left. Just kidding. It's like a straight shot. Anyways. So that'll be a fun event. The topic for our user group will be around admin monitoring. So if you are an admin, or if you are familiar with it, or want to learn more about what is the admin monitoring options that are coming, there are some changes coming in the next couple months, couple years. I think they're going to be continually building new things. So Tim Bindis, a Microsoft PM, will be joining us. He's from Milwaukee area, and he will be presenting more about the admin monitoring options and changes that are coming. Hopefully going to make it easier for you to see what's going on. Yes, from the chat, this is an in-person event, and it will be in Chicago. We will do our best as we can to try and stream it. I'm going to try and bring some gear so we can also put it online as well. That way, anyone who can't make the actual event would likely be able to meet it as well. So again, with solving those problems, I just go to Amazon and buy a whole bunch of gear and just hope stuff works. So that's what we're going to try this time. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll get a little bit better than some of the other videos we've done live. It's a little harder to do things live. All right. That being said, back to the November update. All right. Other things coming out. Anything you want to pick on, Tommy? Any topics that you like?
very, very, very under the radar in the blog. Something we've talked about. We actually had Microsoft. We interviewed one of our few interviews.
Yeah.
Metric feature, metric management is now available in public preview in Microsoft Fabric.
Yes.
So I'm like, wait, are you sure? Am I reading this correctly?
Metric sets is out, man.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it in my tenant though, so I don't know if it's a turn on. Do you have to turn it on or something like that? What's the?
I'm not sure. All I know is I have a bet with someone at Microsoft for how well this is going to do because I am super excited about this. I'm on the long side of this, so
I think this is going to be a great feature. I'm very convinced. I think metric sets are going to change. So let's just do a little bit of like what we think metric sets are, because the blog talks a little bit about it. I think this is kind of the idea of the master and mini model kind of concept. You have this larger, bigger model that has a whole bunch of columns and measures and things in it. It's too much. And so you want to pare that down to just a smaller subset of metrics, a handful of measures, a couple of columns, and say, hey, here's what you need from this broader part of the model. Let's give you a smaller subset of it. And then you can only pick from those items. So it's kind of like using a perspective to kind of control what people can click or use inside the concept of a metric set. So you can still build a visual, you can still make tables, you can still do things with the metric set, but now it's like a smaller subset of a larger model. Is that kind of your interpretation, Tommy?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. It kind of, I don't want to say downgrades the semantic model, but this is the first time that a metric's going to live outside of a semantic model.
It's the first time a metric's going to live outside of it. But doesn't the regular metric set kind of live outside? Like when you tracked things, doesn't that kind of live outside the model? There's another model.
Scorecard?
Yeah, like the scorecards. Don't those kind of?
Kind of, but as soon as you click on it, it brings you to the report.
True, but it's storing the data in a different SQL database, so it's kind of not doing it, but maybe it is.
I think there's gonna be a lot of conversations on this podcast about the metric layer. So
I don't really know how to turn it on because I've gone into my tenant. I'm trying to look for it to see if I can actually like start clicking the buttons on metric sets. It's not there yet, so maybe it's rolling out or it's been announced on the blog. Maybe check your admin settings. I haven't had time to actually really play with it yet, but that'd be one I'm very interested to see how that is going to turn out. Anyways, we'll see how that plans out. Anything else? Any other items? Seth, what do you think? What's in the blog that is intriguing you?
Metric sets was the thing. I mean, it's interesting to me how just it's a bullet in there. I don't know if that's concerning or not, but the scope of them, right? I think could be very impactful. You have a lot of the conversations around like what is the sales number, right? And for people that are becoming more acclimated with the environment, the real challenge that I think this was designed to solve was, reducing how many different ways something could be calculated, right? If everybody's using this sales metric that we can see through metric sets, that's the one you're going to use. It's not the other 10 that might have a report or something like that, right? So I think overall, is this the thing that's going to help alleviate some of the pains of people going, why is your sales number different than their sales number, in reports? But we'll see. I think there's a lot of potential there for solving that problem.
I like this. So that's a good feature there. One of the features I'm going to pick out here a little bit on is the Fabric Git integration Timdal format for semantic model exports. Now, so again, I really, really like the Timdal experience of stuff. I just did a recent video with Sid from the Microsoft PM team talking about using Timdal inside VS Code, which is an amazing experience, by the way. And you get to use GitHub Copilot to it was amazing. When we were doing the demo, you were just typing the word measure and it was trying to build out a full measure for you. The auto prompting that it does, where it just tries to complete your code or line or sentence. It's amazing. It's quite impressive. So I was very impressed by the Timdal inside VS Code. This is a little bit different, but again, it's more integration with the Timdal format. So anything where we see Timdal show up or Timdal format showing up, I think that's actually a great place for it. And it's going to make it a whole lot easier when we work with our models or semantic models to manage models directly with this new format. So I really like this. I'm very excited about it.
I think the other one that stood out but won't get a ton of use because I don't use a ton of maps, but the path layer in maps where you can just it seems a much easier experience to just drop in coordinates and have it go across anywhere on a globe. I think I've suffered challenges with trying to get things working and visualized appropriately there. So I'm glad to see that some work has been done to streamline the map experience. Because every time I go, like it's not often, but when I come back to it, I'm like, I really need this to do this, right? And this is one of those things that I would absolutely look forward to using in the future.
I think it's time to give credit where credit's due. We've harbored on the Microsoft team for not giving enough love to Power BI monthly updates. But there's a ton of updates. There's a new core visual. There's a text slicer that's available now too. The path and the Git integration. By the way, I love GitHub. So I'm going to give some love to the Microsoft team because this is maybe the best monthly update this year for Power BI.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of major updates, but there's one major item.
And it's not even on the blog. So we're going to skip the blog portion and we're going to go right to the jugular here. There's a new major announcement that has just happened. It's and I'll put this one in the chat because this is something that everyone needs to be aware of. There is a pricing change coming to Power BI. The Pro and Premium per users, even some other MVPs. I was like, hey, did you hear this? Like the blog's been announced. They're changing the prices. Other MVPs I've been talking to were like, what? This is crazy. So the gist of the article is a Pro user, and let me be clear about the pricing. The Pro user is currently $10 per month. It's going up to $14 per month. The Premium per user is going from $20 a month up to $24 a month. So they're adding $4 to both the Pro and the Premium per user pricing.
Yeah.
Everything else stays the same. Fabric, all the other SKUs, they're kind of getting away from A, EM, and the P SKUs. Everything seems to be falling towards the just use the Fabric SKUs. So it looks like everything's going to be, I mean, there is some support discontinuation on the premium SKUs, the P SKUs, and people are going to need to start planning migrations. We're actually helping companies now migrate from P to an F SKU, figure out what they need to do there. But that's a thing now. So initial reaction. What are your thoughts, Tommy and Seth?
Well, I mean, the first other important bit of that is April 1st. Which
okay.
It's kind of an interesting day.
Why would
you choose April Fools?
I know.
Oh man,
I feel like that's April 2nd.
We're actually lowering the price.
No. Yeah, I am agreeing with you on that one.
So anyway, April 1st is when that cutover happens. So any renewal or new purchasing of those licenses after that date is when things apply. The other caveat before we get into the agree, disagree, what do you think kind of thing is it looks like this doesn't automatically adjust Pro licenses in the E365.
Oh, yes.
Right. So if you're getting a Pro license through those kind of more enterprise-wide licenses,
they're
saying
a good point.
It's not like this is going to impact that pricing.
So if you already have an E5 and E5 and you already have a Pro license, there's no cost change coming there.
Annual billing.
Well, if you have the Pro license as a result of the E5, it's the independent license themselves. Anyway, back to Tommy. What do you think?
I was going to say, basically what we're saying is if you weren't sure if you needed Power BI Pro, buy it now. So
go buy an E5.
Go buy the E5 now before April. I mean, this is the first time I can remember they have changed pricing on existing licensing. So I know they've added licensing. They added the premium per user.
Yep.
Pro was $10. No, it was always $10. It was always $9.99.
Yes.
So this is the first time
they've changed a little bit how Pro works. Like initially, like you could have workspaces with free users, and free users could use stuff. Sure, but then they kind of so there was kind of like, to me, like if I look at the pricing modeling, that was one major bump in the road. That was like, oh man, we're getting a lot of. I mean, I understand why you're doing it, but like it was really rough when they quickly changed. Like, okay, if you want to share things, you need to start paying, which is the right. It's the right approach. Exactly. It just was very different than what we were currently doing, and they need to rip the Band-Aid off and just do it sooner than later.
Because they realized that you could get away with a ton with a free license. So.
Yes,
but Pro is always $9.99 when they introduced premium per user, which is how long that's been out now? 5 years, I want to say.
I don't even know when premium per user was announced. Yeah, it's been up for a while.
Probably, I know at least 2019, 2020. So I can guarantee that. But so this is the first time we actually had a price increase on existing licensing with no feature updates, which to me is pretty significant.
I mean, getting metrics.
We got
So
scorecards.
I would say this. Price increases always suck. Nobody ever likes them.
No.
But honestly, like this being the first one, I think I don't have any problem with it. I really don't. Like, is there a cut to the bottom line? Yes, but if you think about, they didn't do it 2-3 years in where people were still, kind of clamoring, saying we don't have these features, we don't have this stuff, and like if I see where Power BI has come within the last 10 years, right? Like almost 10 years, and this is the first time we're getting a bump when over the course of those 10 years they've been constantly innovating and building better and better and better solutions for the pro license for $10 a month. Like, granted, it's developer and consumer, so there's an extended cost outside of that. I'm okay with it.
But to your point, this is in the comparative market. This is still dang cheap, like dang cheap
for what you're getting.
What you get.
Yeah.
It's
Mike, what do you
just
think?
report building. Yeah.
I think I'm with this as well. I think I'm going to be like fairly on point with this. It feels about right? So there's a lot of things have happened. The features you get now versus 2018, way more than what we had before.
Night and day.
Yeah. Night and day. And the fact that things are more cloud-based and there's more services and there's a lot of, so I think in that regard, yeah, I understand there's a lot more going on there, but also, inflation's happened. There's been a lot of like economic things that have occurred. So I understand why they're kind of increasing the price, because you can't keep something at a single price forever. It's going to have to give some, as a consulting company or whatever, you give price increases every couple of years. Like that's just what you do to your rates. They just kind of go along with that route. So I understand it. I am excited to just kind of see how this is panning out, but I'm going to a random CPI inflation calculator, right? So I'm just literally going to a random website. $10 in 2025 is now worth the equivalent of $13.72 in today's money. So,
2015, you mean?
$13.72.
So you said 2025.
Yeah. Sorry. So 2015. Sorry, my bad. 2015 at $10 in 2015. Yeah. Now that same $10 would be $13.72 in 2025. So
they're basically saying it's the same price.
They're like, it's the same price as if you had bought it back then. It's just inflation and economic changes, and so you're getting basically the same price. I think $20 is even a little bit different, because if you did that one, it's at $27. So $20 in 2025 would have been the equivalent of $27 today. So okay, I got it. I think this is the right approach. I think you have to do it. I'm not happy about it, but I think this, for me, right, as a person who is very much involved in this ecosystem and space, I'm hearing a lot of things on social media channels that are just kind of very negative and like, oh, this is awful. My company's going to time out. There's other options, teams, right? So this may mean you need to actually sharpen your pencil a little bit and say, do we really need all the things that we're doing inside our Power BI environment? Do we really? So I think people should take a step from this observation and say, let's really look at who's creating content versus who's consuming content in our organization. I think there's an opportunity for organizations to do a bit better job with Microsoft Power BI embedding, because you can serve more reports to more people at a lower price, I think. So I think if you really want to drop that per price per user down lower, I really think it's embedding. I think you need to seriously look at it. There are tools out there that now let you edit, create, copy, build paginated reports all inside the embedded tool. It's not just rendering reports from something someone else built somewhere else in the application. So I really think if you want to start bringing prices down, if you want to give that free user access to reports below an F64 level, you really need to start focusing on the lower F SKUs and focus on embedding. Because I think a lot of people, I think there's a handful of people that are actually creating content, and there's a wider audience of people just trying to consume reports and get data out. And they're going to go export or go back to, whatever they've been doing.
my previous company, one of my monthly reports was to look at the licensing and send that to my boss. So because we was always trimming the fat, but
always trimming the fat.
If you're a mid-sized company, right, 250 people, and everyone, let's say, had a PPU. Okay, this is not going to break that. There's no way, especially if you're already dependent on Power BI.
And
I
would say
that's the other
alternative.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, if you're already, these are, most people in platform are already fully engaged. Like, to your point, Mike, I agree. Like, cost increases always make organizations evaluate the solutions that are being built, which is a good thing. Look for alternatives potentially of ways in which to deploy. And I think there are tons of other options that there are even within the ecosystem, whether that's Fabric SKUs, whether it's embedding, et cetera, and deprovisioning licenses for people that are no longer there. Like, it's better hygiene, I think, of licensing and licensing costs. So overall, cost of doing business, right? Like, in my mind, there's no not justifiable reason for them to do this. And I think they have a fantastic product. So
I think so too. And I saw some threads on Reddit around some of this. They're like, well, if Microsoft would just give us the viewer user for free, the viewer user, they wanted to do the viewer user. And I'm like, whatever. This is embedded. Like, this is, move over to an FSKU. You can embed down to like, $150 a month. You can give report users free reports. So like, I'm of the opinion, like, I don't think you really understand, again, us being insiders, us being very close to technology. I think we understand where we can trim fat a lot easier than other people can. But like, I think there's a lot of things that Power BI offers and gives us in options that people aren't actually looking at yet. So I think Microsoft, good on you. Make sure the price increase is coming. Be aware it's coming out to your organization. But I think this is an opportunity for organizations to say, okay, let's just trim some stuff. Let's make sure we really are building what we want. Let's make sure we only are using the licenses that we need for the organization. And I think this is your opportunity to start looking at FSKUs. It's never been easier to go get a Fabric FSKU and do things there as well. All right, with that, this is our short episode. We have some meetings we got to go attend, so we have to dip out of here. But we did do a podcast. This is our short one: news and some price updates. So all the articles and the information is linked in the description and will be in the chat window as well. So if you want those links, they will be there. Thank you all very much for attending and listening today. I know it's a short episode, but we really appreciate your ears. We know you're busy, so please share this with somebody else and have that discussion. We'd love to see you online. Let's talk about the price increase. Find us on Twitter and tell us what you think, and I'd love to debate a little bit more about what you think about that. Tommy, where else can you find the podcast?
You find us on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to subscribe and leave a rating. It helps us out a ton. Do you have a question, idea, or topic that you want us to talk about in a future episode? Head over to powerbi.tip/podcast. Leave your name and a great question. And finally, join us live every Tuesday and Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Central, and join the conversation on all of Power BI Tips social media channels.
Awesome. Thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time.